Official spoiler season has not even begun for Burrow, and already the market is being triggered by the leaks that we're seeing. In today's video, we are going to discuss a few of these cards and how they're affecting the secondary market and what cards are getting bought out, because there are a few. When players see a spoiler they like, they can lose their minds. And that's no different for speculators either. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thank you again for hanging out with me on my channel today. And a reminder, if you enjoyed today's content, to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that notification bell. I put out new content every single day. And thanks again, everyone, for giving the videos a thumbs up. Now let's get down to business, because Burrow had a leak yesterday come out that I think we should discuss, because when I saw the leak, I knew some crazy stuff was going to go on in that secondary market based on the other leaks we've already seen. And really, it's no different, but it's very fascinating because it's wider spread and it's hitting a lot of unique cards. Now, these cards, of course, are mostly reprint cards, and they're going to be reprinted at some point. There's some reserve list cards that are being hit, like Forest Hermit, and we have another reserve list card to mention today because it did see an uptick in sales when it really shouldn't be, so we have to mention it. So let's take a look at the card first. Let's understand what we're talking about. All right, guys, our card today is Hugs, the Grizzly Guardian. And yes, I put a double image up just in case you guys want to see this thing in 3D. Now, 2 green, 2 red, and X. This is a legendary creature, Badger, Warrior. Badger and Warrior. Remember that Warrior, the extra subtypes are so important for reprints later on and other upcoming sets. Always good to pay attention. It has Trample. And it says, when Hugs Grizzly Guardian enters, exile the X top cards of your library, okay? Until the end of your next turn, you can play those cards. So, of course, you can pay a lot of mana late game, or you can just put this guy out for a 5/5 Trample. But when he comes into play, it says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. So you can see how this guy can get pumped up later. Even if you get a lot of stuff going, he gets killed, you maybe have more mana later on because you got the first one out in a standard format. It's kind of a good card. I like it, and it caught a lot of people's attention. Now, what I mean by catching a lot of people's attention is the secondary market. When I saw the colors for that card, I knew that one card in particular was going to be bought, and it was going to be bought fast. So let's go ahead and take a look at that card. And that is going to be Anzarag, the Quake Mole. And the reason is the color, of course, fits perfectly together, okay? Now, for those who forget, Anzarag was a higher card. We'll see that later on. A very valuable card when it first was kind of released. Everyone saw it was a 4 casting cost, 8/4, that said, when Anzarag, the Quake Mole, becomes blocked, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there is an additional combat phase. And then, of course, you can have Anzarag there, make him be blocked. But the thing is Hugs is going to kind of go with him. Hugs is going to hug the Quake Mole, because he gets to put extra lands into play, meaning you can use the ultimate ability on Anzarag that much faster, and really 4 and 4, right? You don't have to pay that X. Remember that. These are very fast casting cost, aggressive creatures that players are going to be able to get out quickly and be able to seize the moment and say, we can make this happen. When I looked at that card and I looked at the market of sales, Anzarag is worth nothing to where it used to be. Let me show you this. When you look at Anzarag's value, you can see here, this card came in at around the $30 mark for Murders at Karlov Manor, and it just proceeded to drop like a stone, and it's continued to fall to the point now where it's like a $3 card if you look on TCG Player. And a reminder, guys, the moment to shill for myself, if you're deciding to purchase anything on TCG Player, please remember to use my affiliate link. It is found in the description of this video, as well as all my other videos. When you click that link and anything you purchase, it gets associated with the Moxman brand here, and we get a kickback of 3.5%, which really does help the channel get prizes and stuff for some of the parties we throw. So thanks again to everybody who takes the time to use my affiliate link. Now back to Anzarag. Now, this Quake Mole card, I loved it when I first saw it. I knew it would be easily killed, easily blocked, but there are ways to get around that. And now, especially if you're playing Commander, by the way. And a lot of people decided to buy this mole. This mole has sold 500 to 600 copies the last count I got. It's not going to make my top 10 probably this weekend, but it's enough to really take notice that a low-level card that dropped massively in value may have a second life. It may have more uses than people realize with the synergy being connected with these sets. And that's important to note because you're not always sure where things are going to go. But when you look at these cards, you can say, yes, the value will be there. And that color wheel leads to a secondary question, which I had to check into. We've all noticed in the last couple of years the uptick of legendary lands. Now, with the abundance of legendary lands available now, especially in Commander and being played in Commander regularly, I've been at games where players can have 5 or 6 legendary lands in play, and that led to a second question I had to ask myself, and that is there anything that can be used with those legendary lands that fits that color wheel that maybe is being bought up a lot? Let's take a look at this one. Livana Salone from Legends. Now, this card has tanked massively since 2021. I myself bought a copy, I think around the $50 mark when it was starting to trend down because I did always like the card. I like the artwork, and I bought one. This is reserve list. But I noticed the color wheel, and I looked at all those legendary lands, and I said, where can a card like this fit in? Look at the casting cost. It's still expensive, but it is a 2 red, 2 green, 2 generic, 4/4, summon legend, first strike, and legendary land walk. That means if anyone's playing with legendary lands, especially in Commander, you are going to see this card. When you see cards like this that have unique abilities but are underrated and underutilized, somebody is going to find the inside track and somebody's going to buy the card. Now, at this point, the cards maybe sold 50 copies, okay, that I've been able to track down. But at the same time, this card sells less than 3 copies every couple of months. So 50 copies in the last 3 days is massive, okay? That's a lot of sales in the uptick of what could be a card that somebody might want to utilize. It's a high casting cost by today's standards, by the way, but we all know with the extra land you can lay out with these other cards and all the ways to generate mana inside Commander, it's a lot more playable than you realize and a lot more aggressive mid-game when you have a card that has legendary land walk and you can just start stomping on people with a 4/4. It gives you a little bit of an edge, and the price point is not expensive. So it allows players to buy the card. You can find it on TCG Player, I think, for $35 near mint at the time of this filming. Locally, the stores I had, only 2 had it in stock, and they were sold out by the afternoon. They only had a couple of copies. They were both gone, and they were actually really cheap. They were like $31 Canadian because they were lightly played. So I think they just sold because somebody probably wanted to pick them up. Either way, they're gone now. It's interesting to see how the market is playing out. And this trigger reaction we get on the market is because when you see a spoiler and you look at the card and you say, what can it be used for? How's it going to be utilized? There's going to be some speculators taking a stab at it. There's also players who may be building a deck based on something they've already seen for Burrow and they want to kind of bring it all around. And that will lead to players start brewing in their minds and start to get creative. And then they say, what cards will fit? What cards are going to go in? Because the error cards, Domri Rad is gone up. Not value, he's a dollar card, but a lot of sales. Again, red-green. Easy to cast. Why is somebody buying a card like that? These are not expensive cards, but it shows me people are building Commander decks. They are putting new things together and getting kind of all their ducks in a row for the next construction they're going to build. And that volume of sales, when you sell a couple hundred copies of something, it lets you know there's a lot of people interested in the same idea. Now, this doesn't mean it's all going to work out. This doesn't mean that these are going to be some killer combination decks, but it does mean that somebody is taking a stab at it. They're going to try to build, they're going to try to create, and they're going to try to make a deck that they're going to have fun with. Standard cards like the Quake Mole, they're going to be around for a while. And Mr. Hugs and the Mole, they're going to go hand in hand, and people are going to find a way to make those cards work for them, I guarantee it, with some of the combinations we're going to see. It's going to be exciting. It's going to show the synergy that Wizards, we always I've talked about this lots of times, because Wizards plan so far ahead, a lot of cards are destined to be, at least in Wizards of the Coast minds, intertwined into a connective piece of an ultimate deck that you may want to play competitively. They do it over a series of sets to keep the hype building. They don't put it into one set to make it look like it's just built for one particular series of sets. Like, oh, it's all going to be here in Mirza Karlov Manor. No. They're going to drag it out because then when you see the next product, you want to buy the next product. But those cards also lead to that secondary trigger of old reserve list cards, older cards we haven't seen reprinted, because also Crucible of Worlds had a whole bunch of sales. There was a whole Fork had an uptick on the reserve list of sales. We have a few of these cards kind of getting way more than they normally would. And it's interesting and fascinating to see how players dive in, open their wallets, and that leads to a whole bunch of sales that generate a lot of revenue. A lot of money is coming around, and it all comes back and ties into Burrow. And we're not going to see the official spoiler season until Monday. Monday on the Twitch stream, we'll see the first initial cards. I'll probably be covering a lot of it here on the channel. I'm sure a lot of other content creators will as well. But it's going to be an exciting set. And even if the set doesn't do great in terms of the power level, which I honestly believe it will, based on what we've seen, there's enough of an interest there that a lot of players are going to be buying all kinds of cards, because the secondary market also saw massive sales on the otters from previous like Wilds of Eldraine sets and stuff. There's a lot of cards selling. And some of those copies will make the top 10 because it's like a 20-cent otter. It had like 5,000 sales. And I stopped counting. So I'll rehash it on the weekend and we'll see how high it goes. But it's nuts to think how much is going on right now. And it all stems from a set like Burrow. Keep that in mind. Guys, crazy. Slam down some comments. Let me know what you're thinking and what you're seeing, because this is one of those sets. I love when they come around. It gives me the War of the Spark type vibe for the excitement, if not the imagery and story. Okay, guys, thanks again. Thanks for stopping by. I will see you guys tomorrow. It's going to be epic. Can't wait. Guys, have an awesome day. Hey everyone, here we are at the end of the video, and that's because we're taking a look at all the amazing patrons of the channel. Because of these patrons, daily uploaded content is made possible. So thanks again to my patrons, and if you want to become a patron, there may be a slot or two. You'd have to look. If you're one of my YouTube membership members, if you're one of my patrons, thanks again to each and every one of you. To my regular viewers, you're awesome, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You've made it to the after party. Glad you got the invite. And if it's your first time here, don't worry. I'll be gentle. The Great Henge also selling lots of copies, guys. It's insane, okay? Even some cards from New Capenna, some of the green creatures and stuff, there's a lot of craziness going on. It is awesome to see a market this active at this time of year with everyone trying to do amazing things. Now, when it comes to the reserve list side of things, be aware that I don't expect that card to continue at that level. It's been sitting around the $30, $40 mark. Don't expect it to go up like a super high price. Interest will wane quickly on Livana. It's not going to stay that way, okay? Great card, costs too much to get out. Can be a deadly card in the right deck at the right time, but definitely doesn't see enough play to warrant anything to get your special attention, but it's worth noting that it was selling. Now, when it comes to cards like Crucible of Worlds, these cards always sell, but when you have the uptick of people wanting to work with things with lands, because there was something else... Burrow Bomb. There's some guy who, like, you can sacrifice him and then you can deal 3 damage, and then you can use that other elf that brings all your land cards back from the graveyard to play. There's a whole bunch of combination cards that seem to be selling tons of copies right now. Some are only $1 or $2, but when you see 200 or 300 sales, and this is not the day I count up the sales, by the way, this is filmed on Thursday, so I'll do the top 10 this weekend. Guys, just nuts to see it. It's awesome, but it's nuts. It's just way too many sales. So I'm going to have a hard time kind of keeping track of it this weekend, so bear with me. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. I got kind of some work to do, but it's okay. It's job number 3. We're fine. We're all good. All right, guys. Have a great one. We'll see you tomorrow.